There is a morning routine that an enormous number of people over 60 follow every single day. It looks responsible. It looks healthy. In some cases, it looks exactly like what a doctor would recommend. Wake up, get moving, take the medications, have a light breakfast or skip it entirely. Push through the stiffness. Get on with the day. Nothing about that sequence sounds alarming. That is the problem. Because what research has uncovered about the cardiovascular system in the first 90 minutes after waking, specifically in adults over 60, fundamentally changes how that routine needs to be evaluated. The body that wakes up at 65 or 70 is not operating under the same physiological rules as the body that woke up at 35. The morning surge that the younger heart manages without effort becomes, in the older cardiovascular system, a window of measurable and largely unacknowledged risk. Most seniors are never told this. The conversation does not happen in the average 12-minute doctor's appointment. It does not appear on the medication label. It is not covered in the general advice about eating well and staying active. This video covers 5 specific elements of a common senior morning routine that the latest cardiovascular research flags as genuinely problematic. Not because they are extreme, because they are ordinary, and because ordinary habits repeated every morning for years accumulate consequences that do not announce themselves until it is too late. Stay through all 5. The one most people will not see coming is number 4. It involves something widely considered protective, and the research behind it will change the way it is looked at permanently. Before going further, if you want a complete cardiovascular protection system built around the senior morning window, there is a structured protocol in the description that covers the optimal wake-up sequence, blood pressure medication timing, arterial support supplements, and the hydration and nutrition strategy shown in clinical research to reduce morning cardiac strain in adults over 60. It was designed specifically for seniors managing heart health long-term. The link is in the description below or pinned at the top of the comments. To understand why the morning is different after 60, it helps to understand what the body is actually doing in the moments after waking. The transition from sleep to waking is not gentle. It is a physiological event. The adrenal glands fire a surge of cortisol and adrenaline. Blood pressure climbs. Heart rate accelerates. The blood shifts into a temporarily heightened clotting state, what researchers call the morning hypercoagulable window, as the body prepares for the demands of the day. In a younger cardiovascular system, these changes are handled by a network of compensatory mechanisms. The arterial walls are elastic, the pressure regulation is precise, the hormonal signals are balanced. After 60, that network begins to degrade. Research published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology documents a clear age-related decline in arterial elasticity, baroreflex sensitivity, the body's ability to self-regulate blood pressure spikes, and hormonal buffering capacity. The margin for error shrinks. The same morning surge that a 40-year-old cardiovascular system absorbs without incident hits a 65-year-old cardiovascular system with meaningfully greater force. A meta-analysis covering more than 26 studies, published in the journal Heart, confirmed that the risk of acute myocardial infarction, heart attack, peaks in the first 3 hours after waking, with the highest concentration of events occurring between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. That risk is not evenly distributed across the population, is steepest in adults over 60, and steepest of all in those with existing hypertension or coronary artery disease. What happens during that window is not random. It is shaped directly by the habits performed within it. Here are 5 that are silently loading the risk. Habit 1. Getting up too fast and moving immediately. The body has been horizontal for 6, 7, 8 hours. Blood has pooled. The cardiovascular system has been running on its nighttime skeleton crew. And then the alarm goes off, and the response for most seniors is to sit up, stand, and begin moving within seconds. That transition is more physiologically demanding than it appears. Orthostatic hypertension, the sudden drop in blood pressure that occurs when moving from lying to standing, becomes significantly more common and more pronounced after 60. Research published in the journal Hypertension found that adults over 65 experience orthostatic blood pressure drops that are both larger in magnitude and longer in duration than those seen in younger adults. The baroreflex system that normally corrects these drops quickly is slower and less precise in the aging cardiovascular system. The immediate cardiovascular consequence is a sharp pressure fluctuation, a drop followed by a compensatory spike that the arterial walls must absorb in a matter of seconds. In arteries that are already stiffened and potentially carrying plaque, that fluctuation is not trivial. It creates mechanical stress on the arterial wall at the exact moment the morning hypercoagulable state is active. The research recommendation is consistent: a 2 to 3 minute sit before stand transition, sitting on the edge of the bed before rising, allowing the cardiovascular system a brief window to begin its pressure adjustments before the full gravitational demand of standing is applied. 2 minutes every morning. It is among the lowest effort cardiovascular interventions in the literature and among the most consistently ignored. What comes next is a habit that feels like self-care. Habit 2. A hot shower immediately after waking. There are few things that feel as restorative as a hot shower first thing in the morning. For most of a lifetime, it causes no problems. After 60, the physiology of that shower changes in ways that are worth understanding. Hot water causes rapid vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels throughout the body. This happens quickly and extensively. Blood rushes to the skin surface to dissipate heat. Blood pressure drops. Cardiac output must increase to compensate. Heart rate climbs. In a younger cardiovascular system, this sequence is handled smoothly. In the aging system, the same sequence creates a compounding problem. The blood pressure drop from vasodilation arrives while the cardiovascular system is already managing the morning pressure surge. The heart, attempting to maintain adequate output, increases its workload at the exact moment its arterial environment is least forgiving. A study published in Clinical Autonomic Research found that hot shower exposure in adults over 65 produced significantly greater autonomic cardiovascular stress responses compared to the same exposure in younger adults. In individuals with hypertension or known coronary artery disease, the researchers flagged morning hot showers as an under-recognized cardiovascular stressor. Cooler water, not cold, simply warm rather than hot, allows the same cleansing and awakening function without triggering the same vasodilatory cascade. The adjustment requires nothing more than turning the dial slightly. The physiological difference, particularly for seniors with any cardiovascular history, is measurable. The third habit is one that has been recommended so universally that questioning it feels almost counterintuitive. Habit 3. Skipping breakfast or eating too late. The science on breakfast timing and cardiovascular health in seniors has shifted considerably in recent years, and the findings are more specific than the old general advice about eating or not eating in the morning. Skipping breakfast entirely or delaying the first meal until 2 or more hours after waking leaves the cardiovascular system managing the morning cortisol and adrenaline surge without the metabolic stabilization that food intake provides. Eating in the morning helps suppress the cortisol curve. It signals the body that the day's demands can be met and that the emergency hormonal mobilization can begin scaling back. Without that signal, cortisol remains elevated longer. Blood pressure stays higher. Inflammatory markers associated with arterial wall stress remain active. Research published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that adults who regularly skip breakfast had a 27% higher risk of cardiovascular mortality compared to those who ate in the morning, with the association holding even after adjusting for other lifestyle factors. A separate analysis in Circulation confirmed that the timing of first food intake influences morning blood pressure trajectories, with earlier eating associated with lower sustained morning pressure readings. The composition of that first meal matters too. High sugar, high glycemic breakfasts, the ones that cause rapid blood glucose spikes, amplify the inflammatory environment that is already elevated in the morning window. Protein-forward, lower glycemic options buffer the cortisol curve more effectively. This is not a complicated nutritional intervention. It is eating something within an hour of waking and choosing what to eat with a minimum of attention to what it does to blood sugar. Number 4 is the one that will genuinely surprise most people watching this. Habit 4. Taking a daily aspirin first thing in the morning. For decades, low-dose daily aspirin was near universally recommended for older adults as a cardiovascular preventive. Many seniors still take it every morning, often without a current prescription, because it was recommended years or decades ago and never formally revisited. The research landscape on this has changed dramatically, and what has emerged deserves serious attention. Multiple large-scale trials completed in recent years have found that daily aspirin in older adults without established cardiovascular disease significantly increases the risk of major bleeding events, including gastrointestinal hemorrhage and intracranial bleeding, without providing the cardiovascular benefit that was previously assumed. The ASPRI trial, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, followed nearly 20,000 adults over 70 taking daily aspirin and found not only no reduction in cardiovascular events, but a statistically significant increase in all-cause mortality in the aspirin group, largely driven by bleeding-related deaths. The mechanism is straightforward. Aspirin inhibits platelet function, reducing clotting. In a younger adult with active arterial disease, this effect targets plaque rupture events. In an older adult with a gastrointestinal tract or brain vasculature that has become more fragile with age, the same anti-clotting effect creates vulnerability to spontaneous bleeds that the body cannot easily control. Current guidelines from the American Heart Association and the US Preventive Services Task Force now advise against initiating aspirin therapy in adults over 60 for primary prevention, and recommend that those already taking it discuss discontinuation with a physician. If aspirin is currently part of a daily morning routine, and that conversation has not happened recently, it needs to happen. The evidence is no longer ambiguous. The 5th habit is the one that connects everything else on this list, and it is the most fixable. Habit 5. Starting the morning without addressing overnight dehydration. Sleep is dehydrating. 6 to 8 hours of respiratory water loss, combined with nighttime perspiration and the kidney's continued filtration work during sleep, means that virtually every adult wakes up in a state of mild to moderate fluid deficit. For seniors, this matters more than for any other age group, for several converging reasons. The thirst mechanism becomes less sensitive with age. Research published in the Journal of Gerontology confirmed that adults over 65 experience significantly reduced thirst perception, meaning the body's own signal for fluid need becomes unreliable. Many seniors begin the day dehydrated without feeling thirsty at all. At the same time, blood viscosity, the thickness of the blood, increases with dehydration. Thicker blood moves more slowly through vessels, is more prone to clot formation, and requires greater cardiac effort to circulate. This increase in viscosity arrives directly on top of the morning hypercoagulable state and the elevated blood pressure window. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that dehydration equivalent to just 1 to 2% of body weight, the amount easily produced by a normal night of sleep, measurably increased blood viscosity, raised heart rate, and elevated blood pressure in adults over 60. The cardiovascular system at 7 a.m. is already under its greatest daily strain. Beginning that window already dehydrated removes one of the simplest available buffers. 16 ounces of water consumed before coffee, before breakfast, before medication, before anything else, begins correcting the overnight deficit before the morning cardiovascular cascade fully peaks. The evidence on this is straightforward. The intervention costs nothing, and most seniors do not do it consistently. None of the changes indicated by this research require extraordinary effort. The adjustments are proportional to the habits themselves, small in execution, significant in accumulated effect. Sit for 2 minutes before standing. Adjust the shower temperature. Eat within an hour of waking and choose foods that buffer rather than amplify the cortisol curve. Have a direct conversation with a physician about aspirin if it is currently part of the routine, and drink water, a full glass, before anything else enters the body. Each of these shifts works with the cardiovascular biology of the senior morning rather than against it. Research consistently shows that adults over 60 who modify even 2 or 3 elements of their morning routine see measurable reductions in morning blood pressure variability, reduced inflammatory markers, and improved arterial function over time. The morning window is not inevitable. It is manageable. 5 habits. 5 evidence-based adjustments. 1. Moving too quickly from lying to standing creates dangerous pressure fluctuations in an arterial system that has lost its capacity to self-correct rapidly. 2. Hot showers immediately after waking trigger a vasodilatory cascade that compounds cardiovascular strain during the body's most vulnerable morning window. 3. Skipping breakfast or delaying the first meal prolongs the cortisol surge and keeps morning blood pressure elevated longer than necessary. 4. Daily aspirin taken without a current physician recommendation may be increasing bleeding risk without providing the cardiovascular protection that was once assumed. 5. Starting the day without correcting overnight dehydration thickens the blood and raises cardiac workload at the exact moment every other morning stressor is already active. Which of these is part of the current morning routine? Write it in the comments. The number of people who recognize themselves in this list is consistently higher than expected. Share this with a senior in your life, a parent, a spouse, a neighbor, who follows a morning routine without ever having been told what it is doing to their cardiovascular system. That conversation could matter more than almost any other one you have this year. Now that the full picture of what happens to the senior cardiovascular system every morning is clear, the next step is replacing these habits with a system that actively protects arterial health from the moment of waking. There is a complete senior cardiovascular morning protocol in the description, covering the precise wake-up sequence, arterial support supplementation, blood pressure medication, timing guidance, and the nutrition and hydration framework validated in clinical research for adults over 60 managing long-term heart health. The link is in the description below or pinned at the top of the comments. The cardiovascular system after 60 requires a different kind of morning. Now there is no excuse for not giving it one.